After Atlantis.
Part 5. Bird Women from Hell.
The next scene finds us in Regulum. Balgud has been persuaded by the Lady Porphyra, his soon-to-be bride, that God would grant him victory over Vistan if he would get baptized and promote the Ammouric faith. So now Balgud awaits the great patriarch of the Ammouri, who will bring him into the ancient faith. And with him, waiting outside the church, is none other than Zufagin, the wizard, who intercepts Balgud as he heads to the basilica and the cliffs overlooking Hermias' canyon. And Zufagin wishes to make a last try on Balgud.
My lord, please, you must not associate with these Ammouri or accept the rites. You are a god. You cannot be bothered with such superstitions. The world will not obey an Ammouric hegemonags. Please, consider the doomed course you have taken.
Zufagin, do you still imagine that we will be gods? Did you not see how the god of the Ammouri brought the Lady Porphyra into my life? And how she has changed everything. Even you, she has changed, Zufagin, my good wizard.
She has changed me, my lord.
Indeed, Zufagin. Has not her very presence and wisdom, her speech and her grace transformed you? Admit this in your heart, that it is true. Do you not feel utter shame about that intention we once had to offer the child as a sacrifice to demons? A child that, it turned out, to our great boon, was the lost brother of this blessed Lady of Wisdom. Nor did she fail to treat me with deference and generosity, and so have I in turn benefited so greatly. She taught me the divine laws, the tablet of destiny and the way of Christian love, the illumination of the mind and the glory to come. Things are no longer so grim in my eyes as they once were, when the only thing that meant anything was the thought of death. No, Zufagin, the sooner you admit that we were wrong, the happier you will be. Don't you understand? What would dispel Arizel more than to see you behave toward him with unmatched generosity? That is a sweet and godly revenge for better. So now, if you see my reasoning, you will commit to renouncing any more of that diabolic magic and use your talents for good. Take example from me. You will be glad you did.
My lord, I do not know how you are going to fare as hegemonags if you must be corrected constantly by that woman. As we traveled here together over these many weeks, I saw how she was always teaching you. Now, if you do somehow regain your curule seat, you will need to go to her constantly for her moral teaching and her wisdom. It is she who will rule, not you. As for me, all my hope to be counselor to a god will be dashed.
It is true, Zufagin. Her wisdom is unmatched, and I will go to her often, as she will teach me to become a great ruler for our people, one that can be trusted. It is a small sacrifice to humble oneself in order that so many will benefit. And she herself has said that God sent me as the answer to her prayers, that the Lord would send a deliverer. It seems that God can use whomsoever he wishes. I sincerely hope that you too will see how this God can be your friend, Zufagin, not an enemy. That is why I must forbid that you do any magic which involves sacrifices, animal or otherwise. Forget these demons, Zufagin. They only seek your demise. You stick to the old-fashioned battle magic, fireballs, magic missiles, and all that. In that way, you can restore the Republic
with the help of God, in whose house I now go for baptism. But first, there is to be an exorcism, I understand. I know that old demon of lust still squirms inside of me, and the High Patriarch is going to cast him out by the power of God. Therefore, I say to you, Zufagen, make a choice today. Help us restore the Republic, or else move aside. My lord, I have not yet faith. I will move aside. Still, I know that you have changed, and that some power you have indeed encountered. Therefore, call upon me when the time comes, and I will aid you in your fight to restore the Republic. I know you will, Zufagen. As I said, I can see it in your eyes, for even though you have not yet faith, there is a glimmer of something. For now, your indignation against her, I sense, is passing. There is some change in you that you may detect yourself, but you do not as yet understand it. It is no small thing, Zufagen, to be an associate of the first Ammouric hegemox of the Regulian Republic. Yes, you have changed, but you will not admit it.
My lord, there is one other matter that I must discuss concerning these developments. I am afraid that the Red Ascetic is aware of your presence in the holy city Vasulum. His disciples, as you know, are everywhere. They are watching us. The Red Ascetic fears that you have come to take vengeance on him and his retainer, the Shahinuzib. On account of their betrayal, one of his disciples has approached me with such a message. He says that he would greet you in person, but he fears your response would be negative. Tell him, Zufagen, that the hegemox forgives his transgression of neglecting his lord when his life was in danger. As a recompense, the rightful hegemox requires only the oath of loyalty to the Republic, and to deliver a certain text unto me, the Black Book of Melancholy, or at least a copy in his own hand, a section that treats on the treasure on the Isle of the Harpies, which I spoke of before, in which he has informed me does contain the information needed. Let nothing be omitted. That should be a suitable penance. My lord, they are still under the assumption that you are a devotee of the cult of red asceticism. If you are seen entering the Basilica of the Ammouri, the monks of the red asceticism will stir up an uprising against you. You will inform the red ascetic that he must forbid such behaviors, unless, of course, he wants to kneel and scrape before the so-called king of Rumelia Vestan. Otherwise, let him know that the demon of red asceticism will be exorcised from my soul.
My lord, your desire to become an Ammouric is praiseworthy, for they are very virtuous, and they have great piety. However, for you, my lord, it will make being hegemox very difficult, for you will have to do things that are not so good in order to retain your power. Well, I'm sure that Porphyra will give me advice and her wisdom from God, which will help me rule well. I am not afraid of that. But, my lord, take, for example, how important it is to assume the state of cathartic titan. People were greatly impressed by that power that you had attained, and they saw the many things that you could do with such a power. Now, if you are no longer a red ascetic and that spirit, demonic or whatever, is exorcised from you, you will not be able to attain that state again, and you will fail to win the adulation of the people. Moreover, the Ammouric faith is not all that popular in Regulum. Well, it does not matter, Zufagan. Do you not realize that the state of cathartic titan is just a bunch of phony baloney? It was merely a show of power. It had nothing to do with real power. As an Ammouric, I will be lifted into a state, you could call it a supernatural state, much more potent than the state of cathartic titan. In so being lifted, I will be able to make excellent judgments in many ways. As Porphyra has assured me, the adulation of the people, whether I receive it or not, is not important. What's important is that I make judgments that are best for them. Not that I necessarily make judgments that they will like. In this, I am confident that in the end, I will have done what is worthy of God.
And my lord, just so that you know, it is rumored that the patriarch of the Ammouri secretly adheres to the philosophical principles of red asceticism. Well, I am sure that such a rumor is going around about me as well, Zufagan. These things must not trouble us, for our gaze is upon heaven and its eternal glories, not the earth. Even if it were true, all that is necessary for validity is that the cleric perform the ritual properly. Not that his philosophy is right, nor even that he is counted among the righteous. This is what the Ammouri teach. So now, Zufagan, go and talk to those messengers which appear to you and relay all this instruction. Tomorrow we shall head across the desert to Atalur and win back the allegiance of the 12th Legion.
Yes, my lord. Zufagan, you cast glances askance at me and make grimaces of disappointment because you think that we are not now going to become gods. I am showing you the way, Zufagan, to become a god. Do you not realize that the God who made all has also provided for you and I to become gods? For he became man so that men might be gods. This is the sacrifice that he has made on our behalf, so that we may enter into the ethereal realm that he has prepared for us and live for all eternity as immortal gods.
So therefore did Balgud enter into the Basilica of the Ammouri, the Grand Basilica in Vesselum, which is a sight to behold, a sight of such great glory, so astounding in its architecture, so amazing for mere human eyes to gaze upon, the artistic reflections of the celestial glory, that it must move every soul that enters into that most sacred shrine. As he entered in, he saw his soon-to-be bride, Porphyra, and this gave him great gladness. And he walked forward to the altar, and they awaited the patriarch. And as they awaited, Balgud reflected on the many things that had occurred. How he had met this blessed lady Porphyra, who had changed everything. How he had helped her escape from that sea monster and helped her out of the cistern in that horrible prison. And so Balgud recalled their first words together and how she had said, "My great lord, Hegemax Balgud, you deemed me worthy to be saved from the creature of the depths. I do not understand. Just a few days ago, you provided for my execution. Balgud explained that he was moved by the exquisite purity of her song, among other things, and that she wished to preserve her so that he might hear her sing again. She replied that his heroic deed must then have been the answer to her prayers, for although her people had been imprisoned, she prayed that she might be delivered so that she could beg the Hegemax for their release, as they had no other advocate. God had answered her prayers by sending the Hegemax Balgud himself, and it is only right, as her people had for a long time been praying, that Balgud would repent of the red Asceticism and let her people go. But as she waited in prison, she was captured by very nasty infernal monks, those who dwell underground and sing no songs. They pray to the abyss. These infernal monks bribed the guards, and they chose her as a sacrificial offering to the gruesome demon lord of the deep, the Morkaloth. And that's why she was chained up. Balgud was shocked that such things had gone on right under his feet. Balgud, when it seemed that the end was near, I sang one final hymn to my Lord and God in heaven. She said her father had died in the terrible Centaur Wars of Mahanaxar, and that she would have given up all hope by now, but that she had faith that God would save her. She said that she was the maiden Porphyra of the Vrinth line of Arvidai. There she stood in her white gown, and though all torn and wrinkled as she had been through hell, she was a stunning sight to behold. They climbed out of the cistern. Of course, love is no easy thing, no insurer of comfort and carefree days. This is something Balgud had yet to learn, and many other things that love requires. He was not a quick learner either. He had to accept many things about her that he found uncomfortable. But yet, because there was a new level of awareness in him, a new power in him, a greater power, the power of love, he could not deny her. She had many requests of him and many corrections of his ways. But at the same time, he found it of great benefit. For as they went on, it came to his awareness that she was a great counselor. She was able to come up with plans and ideas that would suddenly Balgud's thoughts were now interrupted as he saw the High Patriarch of the Ammouri enter the sanctuary, the godmouth of all the continent. And the baptism began, and of course, such rituals begin as they should with an exorcism.
Exorciso vos nequissimi letrones qui hominum ab Jerusalem in Jericho. A felicitate innocentia a peccati discircuiam. Descendentum despuliastis, a plagis impositis, sevi vivum reliquistis. Exorciso vos per pissim salutarum, Iesum Christum, qui per incarnationis unitatem misero homini approprians eligavit lunare eius, et visibilibus et sacramentis instituis, rampam oleo et visis, illum sacramentum per infirmum reficere, contra vestram nequitiam, tamque potentiam fieris, peditare dignatus est. Formitate igitur et sidere ad hominis Christi corpus, qui in mortibus, qui baptizatus.
The bearded patriarch grasped Bolgood's head and plunged it under the water, baptizing him. Bolgood dies with Christ, and now will rise with Christ.
Iuro vos per virtutem Spiritus Sancto, qui in sacramento conformitationis per cruciatis optiones crucis, cum impulsione manus. Per Iesum Christum Dominum nostrum.
So now the maiden Porphyra offered her hand to help Bolgood out of the baptismal well. For by her agency, Bolgood was delivered of many demons. And just as he had saved her from the demon of the deep, so now she delivers him by the power of God from the demons of his own interior depths. And Bolgood was a new man. Next came the coronation of Bolgood, in which the patriarch has decided that he must crown Bolgood as emperor of all Regulum. He will no longer use the title Hegemox. Now he will have the full imperium, and he will have supreme power as the first Christian emperor of the entire continent. The patriarch risks his own life in doing this, for if Bolgood is defeated in battle and Vistan maintains his power, certainly Vistan will provide for the assassination of the patriarch. For even though Vistan himself is an Ammouric, he is politically very ruthless and capable of murdering even his own kind, so that he might maintain power. For his only true religion is that of royalty, as he sees himself.
So, did Bolgood prevail against Vistan? Was he able to rouse the 12th Legion and obtain that treasure, and so march on Regulum with an army?
Somehow, by the grace of God, he and Zufagen and Porphyra and the boy did make it across the great desert without an escort, all the way east to Namalial. Then they traveled south along the coast of the Sea of Imminent Waves into Atalur, and found the encampment of the 12th Legion at Iconir. Bolgood, with his powers of persuasion, was easily able to convince the centurions and tribunes of his plans to restore the Republic by funding an army with the legendary treasure hoard of Hermias the Conqueror, which was hidden on the Isle of Harpies in the Sea of Imminent Waves. An elite corps of 30 picked swordsmen is assembled for this expedition, along with 20 archers specializing in the flaming arrow shot. Using local fishermen's boats, Bolgood, Zufagen, and his team embarked one foggy morning for the mysterious and accursed isle. Using the map provided by the Red Ascetic, they located the ancient Atlantean ruins and entered in. The fog dissipated as they approached the ruins, and a foul stench arose. that the men had to cover their nose and mouth with their hands in order just to breathe, for it was so bad. Some men even began to choke somewhat. But they kept on going, and they went into these ruins, which were dark, and there was a need of torches because some of these temples were still standing. Temples covered with ivy and mosses, and with litter strewn everywhere. The pillars could still be seen. Huge Atlantean make. Colossal. As soon as they had entered into the temple of some strange Atlantean deity that is now thankfully forgotten, they suddenly found that the stench was replaced by the most delightful smell of paradisial flowers. Indeed, were they assailed at once by those hideous and unclean bird women, who nearly split up the party by luring the soldiers into dark corners of the ruins with their wondrous song, promising their souls the knowledge of the ages if they would just join them in the delights of love. Even Bolgood, stalwart hero that he had become, paused for a moment and questioned. He immediately placed the wax back in his ears. The Harpies even positioned themselves in the shadows, so that the men who had spent years in the desert without the slightest hint of a woman might only see their alluring neck and bosoms, their flashing eyes, and voluptuous lips. Not how those neck and bosoms were joined to the monstrous and vile bird feet from hell. Indeed, some soldiers were lost before they disobeyed Bolgood's command, who, at Zufagan's instruction, ordered them to keep the wax in their ears so as not to be lured in by the song. Even the tribune Tarsicus, who should have known better, as he was searching through the area of ruins with his squadron, told them that he must meet the singer of that wondrous song he was hearing.
Now, the Gomanis, feminam formosum.
And off he went, and his men could not prevent him. For even endeavoring by strength of arm to hold him back, but he was a capable wrestler indeed, and struggling free escaped them.
Tarsicus, rede nunc, non quod agis. Tarsike! Tarsike!
And he ran to her. He beheld the lovely lady, that monster of hell, who stretched out her smooth ivory arms to him, beckoning in song. The sword dropped from his fingers. The soldiers saw the monstrous bird fly upwards high above the ruins with her catch, which subsequently she dropped from hundreds of feet above onto the rocks, his body and bones crushed by the fall. And then the monster flew down to the corpse to have her feast. Surely this was how the hellish creatures made their living, by singing alluring songs and capturing anyone who dared the ruins in search of the rumored treasure. And indeed, there had been many, for it soon became apparent that the innumerable whitened bones strewn about the ruins and rocks were human bones. Bulgit rallied his men and commanded the archers to strike down the slain bird women with flaming shots. It was not an easy task for the archers to do, as they were not accustomed to shooting women. But Bulgit assured them these were not women.
Extende. Exactum. Nunc!
And there were several more ambushes of the bird women, but in the end the monsters were routed, seeing their peers bursting into flames from the arrow shots. And so did the search go on. Searched through at least 2 more temples of those bizarre gods of the ancient Atlanteans. And these temple complexes were quite elaborate. And finally they came across the trap-laden entrance to the treasury in which Hermias's great hoard had been stashed. Fortunately, Zulfagan was a scholar in ancient Atlantean trap mechanisms.
This spike trap is rather complex, my lord. Allow me.
The treasure was amazing to behold. Hermias the Conqueror in days of old had gathered many great gifts of tribute from the various nations that he had conquered. And the ancient silver and gold coin was piled high. Innumerable chrysits. Even after all the survivors of the expedition had filled their bags with the loot, it was only a minor portion of the stash, the rest of which they left there for some future date. Indeed, the Harpies would eventually return to their home, counting on the thousands of foolish Gazulir, those treasure hunters, to keep making attempts. And Bulgit also found Hermias's famous golden snake bow, which he kept as a souvenir of the expedition. That is how it went. And Bulgit returned to rouse the 12th Legion and march on Regulum. After the men returned to the encampment at Akadir, they were so filled with gladness that they had achieved success against the monsters, the Harpies, that they threw a party. Except for Bulgit. He remained apart while the men rejoiced, in order that he might give thanks to God for his victory, and to pray for the souls of the men that were lost.
It must have been truly terrifying to have been seized by one of those monstrous bird women. Poor Tarsicus, the tribune. who was dropped from the sky. What an awakening for him. It must have been... He must have wished that he were back home in Regulum as he slipped through the air to his death on the rocks.
It is no safer for men in Regulum, Epidanias. Certainly there live many harpies there as well, waiting to seize a wealthy tribune and become the cause of his undoing. The only difference is that they do not have bird feet.
Indeed. Life is always and everywhere dangerous, Heptha. So tell me, did he prevail against Vistan?
That information has not been granted in this prophecy of the future. It is not permitted to reveal the possible future in any more detail, for we are mere men.
But what about me? You have told all about Bolgud, and very little about me. The last you ever said about me was that I was disgraced for having relinquished my opportunity to give my life for the Republic, that the people had found out and had burned effigies of me in the streets.
So indeed, they never did overcome that negative sentiment against you, Epinenias. Not even Bolgud, who forgave you of your selfishness, was able to convince them otherwise. You were ostracized and had to leave Regulum, for you could not even appear at the marketplace without someone throwing fish heads at you and others joining in with cabbage. The Duplavagus, however, did not abandon you, for as I said, the creature was a huge fan of your histories and was hoping to make your life worthy of them. The creature accompanied you back here, all the way back to the Well of Souls. On the way, you became a good friend of the Duplavagus. And so here you would spend your years in study and meditation, and that is what you intended. But being a lonely man, this was a great boon to have a friend. However, the thought came to mind that the Duplavagus might serve you as a wife. You could even provide a painting of a most lovely consort of your own choosing for the creature to appear as. This is how you lived your last years.
But that is all illusion, Heptha. You mean to tell me that in the end I choose to live in a dissemblance? To gratify myself with a fake wife?
That is indeed what you choose. Perhaps it were then better to die for the Republic than to live a life of self-deception? Surely it is far better. Even the pagan gods would condemn a Narcissus of your design and never allow him to approach the banquet of nectar.
And of my illustrious name, Epinanias of Asosmas, Archscribe of the Pelamont and Magistrate of the hill cuts of the Timo region, author of 27 books from the foundation of Roman Regulia?
Even Bolgud could not stop the people from destroying your works. They will go to oblivion. Therefore, it is up to you, Epinanias. Choose to die for the Republic under the blade of Vistan and preserve your famous name, or die in disgrace, in self-delusion, your name infamous for all time, that not even the decree of a Christian emperor can rehabilitate. The choice is yours.
But that cannot be right, Heptha. There must be some third way. How do you know that even if the mad and scared dogs could manage a revolution against Bolgud, that they would succeed?
You are right. We do not know that. That line of events has not been given to me. It matters not, however. Clearly, you have already made your choice. You will say, I will go with you to Regulum and give my life for the Republic. But then later you will change your mind and use the Duplavagus.
How do you know that I will do that?
I do not know. However, it is most probable. Having heard the prophecy of the future Christian emperor, You will not be able to quite remember it. And even now, I myself do not remember it, because only vagaries of what I have told you, as if one were to draw a sketch and then erase it, and so that only a faint outline remains. It is the will of heaven, so only having a sense of things, namely that nothing will really go well for you, you will choose to preserve your own life. Perhaps it is better that way, and better that Bolgud become emperor.
But how can Bolgud be a Christian emperor? Will the people actually take him back? He was terribly hated.
As I told you before, the man has considerable power of persuasion. I think he could persuade the people. At any rate, his troubles will be great as an Ammouric ruler, even if he has the help of a wise counselor. The red Asceticism will not just go away. It has been adopted by half the population, including and especially the youth. How can he establish morality and self-restraint among those unused to such a yoke? And it will be a long and hard fight against the Crimson Senators. If he does not prevail, if the people sink more and more into depravity and vice, then God will unleash his chastisements. War, famine, plague, and death. The four horsemen. Our republic will be lost. The mad and scared dogs can only provide example, nothing more. The people themselves must repent.